Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes, of course you can.
Can I ask you your name first?
Yes, my name is Casey.
My name's Cliff. Pleased to meet you. Thanks for stopping.
Nice to meet you too.
So I normally ask people 3 or 4 questions. First 3 are easy, the fourth one's tricky. Ready for it?
Yes.
So first question is, what do you think of animals in general?
Well, I love animals. I study animal science at school and I'm going into zoology, so...
I love animals too. Always have. What do you think of animal abuse or people who abuse animals?
I think it's wrong. That is a tough question because animal abuse is defined in many different ways.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, how would you define animal abuse?
Well, I do believe there are, domestic animals that are set for a purpose and bred for that purpose, and then there are ways that you can abuse them. So, for example, horses, using them for work and using them for riding, but then there's also, you could use them for guns and things like that.
Yeah.
Then of course there's puppy mills and there's so much.
I know. I would define abuse as causing unnecessary harm to an animal. Would you agree with that or not?
I do agree with that, yes.
Okay, next question. Well, let me ask you another one first. So somebody kicking a dog,
Yeah.
bad or good?
Bad.
What about fox hunting, bullfighting, all those types of things,
Yeah.
dog fighting, all that stuff?
I would agree, yes. There's no need for the violence.
No need for it, and it is violence, I agree. So the fourth question, it's maybe the fifth now, I told you it was going to be trickier. The animals we take into slaughterhouses, that we hang them upside down and we cut their throats and shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Okay, so...
It's trickier now, I know, and no judgment with it.
Well, I've been to an abattoir before.
So have I.
And I've seen how it goes, and it is quite gory and it is quite rough, but, I think that they prioritise human health over the animals' welfare as they die. So, draining out the blood and things like that is more to do with our welfare rather than how the animal.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be upfront with you now. And when I say no judgment, I used to pay for all these things myself. I've been to slaughterhouses too, but as an animal rights activist. So I go there we do vigils at slaughterhouses, like Carlow and Cookstown and Cranswick and Palomina, where they have gas chambers for pigs. And if you go back to causing unnecessary harm, so I haven't eaten any animal products since I was 19 years of age. I'm now 56. So it's completely unnecessary to eat animal products. Well then, surely that qualifies as... If kicking a dog's bad, well then, and somebody's getting pleasure from it, well then, why is it okay to throw a pig in a gas chamber and hang them upside down and stick a knife in their throat for a totally unnecessary reason?
Yeah,
what do you think of that?
I agree. I do think it's unnecessary. I think there are ways to do ethical farming, farming yourself, because personally, this may be sort of gory, but I do slaughter my own chickens and my own quails before in the past, and
Right, so I'm going to question you on that. Are you okay with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can you ethically take somebody's life away from them?
Well, I feel as though in nature, animals take lives from other animals, but they use the whole animal. Like, for example, even if a predator doesn't eat an entire animal's body, the other animals eat it and, it goes back into the earth. It's sort of the circle of life, but if you're doing it unneedingly or in sort of a mass farming perspective, I don't really agree with that.
You see, the animals that do it in nature are carnivores.
Yeah.
So they have to eat other animals to survive. That's a necessity. We don't. We can survive and thrive on a plant-based diet. We don't have to wear leather. We can just wear vegan alternatives to leather. There's alternatives for absolutely everything. So comparing a necessity for a carnivore to human beings who don't have to, when you don't have to, it's a completely different conversation. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that perspective that if it's unnecessary, we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
However, just as someone who does see animals in a way that maybe you don't, I don't entirely agree. Like, I would willingly kill and eat an animal myself.
Okay. So again, so that you agree killing an animal's violence, right?
Pardon?
You agree that killing an animal is violent, inherently violent, to cut somebody's throat or break their neck or put them in a gas chamber. That is violence. I don't see it as food. I see it as violence.
Yeah.
So it's inflicting unnecessary violence on another being that lives on this earth that feels pain and can suffer in exactly the same way that you can.
Yeah.
So for me, that's not justifiable. That for me is it's a justice issue. I see it as a complete injustice to take somebody's life away from them when you don't need to.
Well, I'm willing willing to change, and I'm willing to take on different perspectives.
Okay.
And you know, there was a point in time where I didn't care about where I got my meat, and I didn't care about animals.
Me too, by the way. That's why I'm not
You know,
judging it.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like adopting more ethical farming for me is just a step up in where I'm at the minute.
Yeah.
You know.
The way I see ethical farming is the animals could live in the best farm in the world in the best conditions and have like comfy beds at night and warmth and heat, but taking them to somewhere where they get stabbed in the throat or shot in the head or electrocuted or any of those things, that negates all of the care that has gone before. Like if you had children or your dog, I don't know if you have a dog or any companion animals, say I care for them, but then you take them to a place where that negates everything that's gone before, taking somebody's life away from them. And for me, people talk about humane slaughter, and I get it. All these things were taught from. I loved animals from I was this high, and I was eating animal products for most of my life. I was, well, up until I was 19, I was eating chicken and pork and milk and all sorts of stuff. And then I began to see it as inherently cruel and realised that I didn't need to. And when you don't need to cause suffering to somebody else, I've seen how these animals suffer. I've been in pig farms, I've been in dairy farms. The whole industry stinks, and most people have. You might have some idea with what you're studying. Like, do you know how the dairy industry works? Like, could I tell you, have you got 30 seconds to tell you how...
I suppose I've only really been on dairy farms where the cows are themselves, but I find that I don't really agree with the body condition of them.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? They're very skinny and their udders are very large.
Yeah. So can I have you got like 30 seconds to tell you how the dairy industry works? Mm-hmm. So most people think that cows just give us milk.
Yeah.
Right, so they're mammals.
It doesn't work that way.
Right, so they have to
take
be...
your babies away.
Yes, you know all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the entire herd, we'll cut to the chase, the entire herd of dairy cows are all female.
Yeah.
Have you ever asked yourself where all the boys are?
They're dead. They are dead, or they're killed for beef, but they're not bred for beef because obviously they're breeding for the dairy cow.
And it's a completely different, like the Charleroi and the beef cows are completely different. You see the beef cows, they're stockier and much smaller. The dairy cows, they're thin because we're milking them every day.
Pure milk production. There's nothing else.
It's slavery, really. Would you agree that it's slavery?
I agree totally.
So they 5 or 6 cycles of pregnancy, pregnant 9 months, have your child abducted away from you, which is deeply distressing for them. I don't know if you've ever heard them crying out for the children.
I've seen it, yeah.
So that's bad. That's terrible to take a child away from its mum.
I definitely think that if the world can't change to vegan options, that we should definitely create more ethical farming practices, or even farm ourselves.
Yeah, but again, you're still in a situation where no farmer's ever going to keep an animal.
Oh, no.
Like, once their milk production wanes,
they're useless.
Cows live until they're 25 or 30 years old. Like, is a farmer, anybody who's ethically farming, going to keep an animal that's costing them money the entire time and draining on his finances? So once they get to 5 or 6 years old, all dairy cows are off to the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
You know, and I know a cow, well, I did know a cow in a sanctuary here who was 32 years old. So that's how long they can live. Living a happy life in a sanctuary. You know, so for me to forcibly impregnate them, take their children away from them, kill the baby boys, almost like 150,000 on the day they're born last year, killed in the UK. That's tragic. It's tragically sad. We baby calves, and the rest go. I'm from Ballymena. It's a Ballymena market on a Friday morning. Has a dropped calf market. Do you know what that is? It's just the baby boys. And off they go to Belgium or the Netherlands, where they're made to stand on veal pens for 16 or 18 weeks, and then they're stabbed in the throat and turned into fields so somebody can eat. You know, when you can just eat a vegan option instead. What do you think of all that?
Well, I don't disagree on anything, but I don't think that it's realistic to ask that of an entire society. Although, if you could, we should. I do think I have some issues with things like vegan leather and things like that being made out of plastic. We need to make more sustainable.
I get you. I try and live as ethically as possible, just for the record. It's completely separate to my veganism. I pulled up a picture this morning of me in London this day last year. No, it came up in my memories, and I was wearing the same clothes today I was then. So I don't buy a lot of clothes. My shoes, by the way, are vegan shoes made from vegan leather. But leather's really bad for the environment too. All the processing that goes through as well is tragically bad. So there are some things in this world, simply by existing, unless you want to walk around naked, you know, which I don't really want.
That's the way we should be.
Well, I agree with you.
That's the way we should
I agree with you, but it's not socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And we can't change entire society overnight like that. But let me tell you how I see it. You wouldn't be racist.
No.
Racism's bad. So there are many people in this world and in this country probably that are still hold racist views and say racist things when they're with their families and stuff. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be homophobic. You wouldn't be genderphobic or any of those things. So why then, just because everybody else is doing something doesn't make it okay for, you know, I see to harm an animal is bad in my opinion when I don't need to. No necessity. So okay, everybody's doing it and paying for it. But I can remove myself from that and say, I'm not cool with that. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to use vegan options instead for for makeup. Well, I don't wear makeup, but cosmetics, for food, for clothing and stuff like that. What do you think of that perspective?
Yeah, no, I agree.
What slaughterhouse were you at, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't remember the name of it, but I went with my my tech.
Yeah. What do you think when you got there?
I'll never forget the smell. It was disgusting. I really
the blood and so the ones I've mainly been to for most vigils are the pig slaughterhouses. So
was that the one in Cookstown?
Yeah, Carl Foods.
Yeah.
Do you know they're gassing about 4,000 pigs a day in there?
Nice.
So when you go, there's a wee back lane, you go down in near to the kill zone or near the gas chambers and you can hear the pigs screaming. It is fucking horrific.
They sound human.
They do sound human, and the trucks, so they would stop the trucks for us and we spend a few minutes with them, give them some water. It's probably the only dog they've ever seen in their entire life.
Yeah.
You see the ones in the trucks? Pigs are super intelligent. They're the fourth most intelligent animal, believe it or not. So it's human beings, dolphins, corvids, pigs. Much more smarter than... They're as smart as a 3 or 4 human child. So when they arrive in the trucks, they hear the screaming. They're fucking terrified.
Yeah.
They know exactly what's... Well, I don't know if they know exactly what's going to happen to them, but
they know something's
coming. And they are terrified. They do not want to go off the trucks. You can see it in their eyes. Their eyes are so bloody human. See, the last day I was there, I cried my eyes out. It's fun. I feel like crying now talking about it. It's so bad. So they put them in cages, and it's on a gondola thing, the size of that, with like cages on it, almost like a Ferris wheel. In a cage, 3 or 4, and they drop them down in. It's CO2, so it's like suffocation.
That's wrong.
Like, and they tell us that's the most humane method, you know. But
that's no way for an animal to go. You know, like for my chickens, they're quite happy. They live in a very large, they practically have a whole field. Like, and when they go for slaughter, it's just into the shed and they're done.
Yeah, I know it's quick, but still, I don't ever see it as humane to... I don't know what you do. You probably break their necks, I would imagine, or cut their throat. You know, to break an animal's neck. When you think about it, if it was a dog.
But at least I'm not supporting farms where chickens are being processed in that way, which is a step up.
Yeah,
I know that it doesn't obviously agree with you, but I do think it's a step up.
I get you, and I'm not going to say that backyard hens or any of that stuff is as bad, because the factory farms are fucking horrendous. And I don't know if you've ever been even in the free range sheds.
No, I haven't.
Jesus.
They're free range. I've seen pictures of it. It's like they're free range. They're just not in a cage, but they're.
It's one big cage. One big cage.
Yeah.
So most farmers, if you notice now with egg farms, I don't know if you know what the egg barns look like. They're the long, flat green ones with with those things along the sides. Those are the egg ones. So most farmers have 2. So they exploit both markets. So one is the caged hens, and the other one's the free range.
And it's all coming from the same farm.
And it's all coming from the same farm.
Yeah.
So there's in the barn, there's 4,000 in one barn. They put them in as wee chicks, but they grow very, very fast. So when you go in there after like a few weeks, like 4 or 5 weeks, I think there's like 9 birds to a square metre.
Yeah.
It's fucking tragic.
Yeah.
It's almost worse than the cages, and the cages are. To live your entire life in a cage where you can't even stand up straight, you can't spread your wings for a bird.
Well, I have to say, with people becoming even just more vegan, not totally, if you brought down meat consumption, ethical farming could happen. It would be very expensive, and maybe if it was more expensive, people wouldn't buy it.
It's not sustainable, you see.
Yeah.
So for everybody to have a small local farm, it's not sustainable these days. It's just never going to happen. Cost too much money, the price of meat would go up and the whole industry would collapse. But even
the industry has to collapse.
Well, that's why I work with they were called Animal Rebellion, now Animal Rising, and we're working for change from the top. And then I'm out in the streets and doing talks in schools and stuff and trying to make grassroots change, because I think it has to come from both ways.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But even reduction wise, so some people say to me, oh yeah, meat-free Mondays and I don't eat as much meat now, or I try and eat less. Still, when you eat a small amount, that one being lost their life
Yeah.
for a 5-minute tasting session when you could just eat. Have you ever tried like vegan products? Like loads of them are really good.
Yeah, I actually quite like them. Yeah.
So even if they taste slightly different, which they do, but most of them are really good. A question I always ask people, and lastly ask before you go, what do you value more in your life? A slight taste difference or an animal's life? What's more important?
That is a difficult
You ever thought of it that way before? Because most people say to me, oh, do you think animals are more important than humans? Well, no, I don't. But I think all animals are more important than a 5-minute meal.
I would actually say that animals are more important than humans.
I wouldn't
because
disagree with you.
They do better for the environment than us.
Yeah.
We're practically a parasite that lives off the earth and doesn't give anything back, whereas animals belong here.
Human beings are a virus, in my opinion.
But
There's some good people out there, but the way we live en masse, I think the way I look at it, I love the individual person, but as a collective,
if
we
we
do
went
some
back to-
shitty, horrible things, you
If we
know.
went back to our roots and were more natural, then maybe there would be maybe it would be more redeemable. But
Could I give you a wee card before you go?
yeah, of course.
Whereabouts are you from, if you don't mind me asking? Are you from this area? You don't have to tell me exactly, I just was wondering.
I'm from up around Martha direction.
All right, you'll hardly be in Belfast tomorrow. There's a vegan festival on in the Europe and loads of speakers and stuff, and I'll be speaking at it. I was going to say you could come along if you were from the area. So this is my card. I'm going to ask to watch one thing. See the one at the bottom here, the best speech you'll ever hear? I moved your phone there by accident. How that happened. It's about 40 minutes.
Oh, were those the ones on Netflix? I've seen Game Changers.
Yeah, Game Changers is good. So
yeah.
I give these as resources to people. The one I asked everybody to watch this speech sounds crap. Somebody sent it to me and I thought, a speech on YouTube? That'll be shit. It is literally the best speech I've ever heard, and it changed my.
It's probably on YouTube because they don't want it anywhere else.
It is on YouTube. It's free to watch, and it changed my entire perspective on the world and everything. And he's not a motivational speaker; he just spitting truth. And for me, it changed my life. So maybe watch that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you listening
You too.
to me.
Thank you for stopping. I'll shake your hand. Have a great day.
My view on things.
Yeah, no. Well, watch that wee speech, and it'll maybe give me some food for thought. Have a nice day. Bye bye.